Hello everybody, welcome to another Patreon video. This is a bonus episode and extra content for Lesson 4, Light and Dark, in which we were doing tonal studies from our favorite paintings. The first two I did, if you watch that lesson, I do one in magic marker and I do one in pencil. This one I am going to be using gouache, which is you can see it here, is this opaque watercolor and gives you this lovely velvety texture. The painting I've chosen to do for this one is, the first painting of three, is The Flagellation of Christ by Della Francesca. Now, when I executed this tonal study, which is what I have right here, I'm just using black gouache, and these gray areas are actually just a light wash of that black paint, just adding more water to it. When I was executing the tonal study, and I did this very quickly, I'm not trying to get an accurate, like a precise, accurate replication of the painting. What I am trying to do is understand how the painter organized the image. The painters from Italy in this era are really meticulous about how they organize their image. Everybody and all the architecture and everything is placed with a lot of thought in mind. And so you end up with these kind of interesting phenomena. So you see, when I did this, when I was doing the black hat right here, I noticed that it points directly across the shoulder blades and then through the hands. So you see this, you have this like center line of focal point throughout the whole painting. And also I was, getting at these dark lines. And so you see them kind of doing this and this here. And then I noticed that these shapes, I didn't actually get it too accurately here, but you notice this kind of goes back and this kind of goes back. And so what you have is this perspective grid formed by the architecture here and here. You also have this oscillating dark, light, dark, light, dark, light, dark, light, kind of dark, light, and then dark. So you have also this staccato pattern to keep the eye, one, very engaged, and also that allows for each section to be a high contrast section. What's really interesting is that oscillation continues here, and it also continues here, this back and forth between light, dark. This is kind of lighter, dark, light, dark. And the other interesting thing is even between these, so we have a kind of grayish, a little grayish, and then we have this patch of the ceiling that's illuminated, the one above Christ. And so that becomes also kind of a signifier that, hey, this is an area of focus. And so the grid and this kind of perspective grid dominates the organization of this painting, which we can discover when we do these tonal studies. In the previous episode, Light and Dark, I also mentioned doing woodblock prints. So the next study I did was actually of this Japanese print from The Poem of the Pillow by Kitagawa Utamaro, which is this really high-end kind of elegant erotic art. Now, the reason I suggested doing tonal studies of Japanese prints is because you have these defined shapes of light and dark because of the nature of the printing process and also the style of the time. Now, the way this image is organized is really incredible. Whereas in the previous one, in the Italian painting, that kind of grid and hyper-organization is related to this idea of the ideal painting. They were using the science and measures of the time to kind of create an ideal image. In this one, in these Japanese prints, that tonal organization is used to enhance the narrative of the image. So this is an erotic image, and they're using the organization of the lights and darks to highlight the kind of erotic kind of moments in the painting. So without further ado, we'll get started. When you're doing this, you notice that this center dark shape is almost in the direct middle. Right here, it's a little bit off, but it is definitely dead center in the horizontal of the image. Next, we have this kind of flowing shape right here, and it comes here, and then we have a slightly lighter shape. I've mixed a gray here, and they come here, and then the highest contrast is this white, and so it's highlighting this little shape where we can see the buttock and the thigh, and these darks are squeezing on that shape, so it becomes very, very bright. Also, the other areas of lightness are right here where the faces meet, but look what separates that face, just that little line. I mean, these could almost melt together. The other element is we see these dark leaves. If this was gone, this whole part would be white and would make a very kind of dull image. But they've put these little splashes of dark to kind of activate that space. And just look at this, and then this idea of these figures melting together, we also have this kind of pooling robe right here. It's a really, really wonderfully organized image. And then the courtesan or the female figure's robe is the darkest thing. This is the focal point, whereas everything kind of pulls down into this direction. Last but not least, I wanted to do a more contemporary painting. And what we'll be doing is this image, this just knockout painting by Mickalene Thomas, called Mama Bush, Your Love Keeps Lifting Me Higher and Higher in 2009. Mickalene Thomas has a background in photography, so when I was doing this tonal study, I was thinking a lot about how does she organize her images, is there an obvious reference to photography in them. So the figure at first glance looks pretty straightforward, like, oh, it's a photographic figure caught candidly, but then you look, and as you're executing this study, like when I'm doing these elements and these elements here, it's their collage elements. So that means that Thomas has this idea, she's taking these collage elements and she's organizing them. So this is literally organizing the image, designing it till they have it the way they want it. And so when we do the tonal study, we see some kind of make some interesting discoveries. One, we have the largest dark figure in the center, so obviously drawing your attention in, focal point. But then we have all this pattern of like medium contrast to high contrast around the outside. So we have this kind of radiant, like jubilant energy. Then, as I was doing the light and dark studies, I noticed the whole figure is at this kind of angle. And that figure is echoed by these elements here. So we have this kind of, and then right here as well. So not only do we have this kind of activated ground in which the figure seems to be radiating this energy, the whole world, the surrounding elements seem to move with her. So then we have this like focal point who is powerful and exuding energy, and that fits with this narrative of this this kind of regal figure. And then also all these shiny things. If you've seen these paintings in person, they're great. All these are these kind of like bejeweled rhinestone, and so it sparkles. So this organization of this painting enhances this element of kind of a large regal figure that inspires and puts out a lot of positive energy. And Thomas uses her spatial organization to that end. So we've had, 3 very different strategies for organizing an image in light and dark, all of which are used to push or enhance a conceptual pictorial agenda. With the Italians, it's this kind of divine mathematics, divine geometry to convey kind of the divine message of the human tragedy or human comedy, however you decide to choose it. In the Ukiyo-e by Udamaro, it's used to enhance the narrative and enhance the kind of visceral feel of this erotic moment. With Thomas, it's also a little bit to enhance the narrative, but it's more to enhance this kind of the symbolic power of this figure. I hope you found this helpful. I'll be putting this one out for public, for members and non-members alike. If you found this interesting and you want to know how we're executing these tonal studies and how we're using the Bauhaus to investigate contemporary art making, please like and subscribe to my Patreon page. I love doing this, and I look forward to hearing from you all and see what you make.